What if I told you that in some parts of America you can still buy an entire house for less than the price of a used Tesla? It sounds unbelievable, but while millions of people are struggling to pay $3,000 a month for a tiny apartment in cities like New York or Los Angeles, there are towns across the United States where you can own a home, pay less than $900 in rent, and actually save money at the end of the month. These are not abandoned ghost towns either. They have grocery stores, schools, hospitals, parks, and real communities where neighbors still wave when they see you. However, there is always a catch. Some of these places come with harsh winters, slow internet, and in one case, even mosquitoes that seem like they might charge you rent. Still, if you're tired of sky-high living costs, these towns might surprise you. Today we're looking at 10 US towns where living is so cheap it almost feels like you're cheating the system. Let's start with Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Living in Johnstown feels like stepping back in time, almost as if the town hit pause sometime in the 1950s and never pressed play again. The streets are lined with historic brick buildings and quiet neighborhoods filled with character. But the real surprise is how affordable it is to live here. The median home price is around $108,000, which is incredibly low compared to most places in the United States. In many big cities, that amount wouldn't even cover the down payment on a small apartment. Rent is just as shocking. Most apartments range from about $600 to $800 per month, which is less than what some people in New York pay just to park their car. Utilities, groceries, and insurance are also well below the national average. Of course, nothing is perfect. The job market here is limited unless you work in healthcare or have a remote job. Winters can also be brutal, with snow piling up so high that people sometimes lose sight of their mailboxes until spring arrives. Still, there's something peaceful about life in Johnstown. Imagine waking up in a 100-year-old brick house, the kind with creaky wooden floors that tell stories every time you walk across them. You step outside early in the morning, grab a simple cup of coffee from a local diner that costs barely $1, and look out across misty hills surrounding the town. The old steel town grid is still there, but it's quieter now. The factories that once roared with noise have mostly faded into history, leaving behind a calm atmosphere that many residents actually enjoy. One local once wrote online that living in Johnstown feels like living inside a history book, except here you can actually afford the pages. For people tired of massive mortgages and endless rent payments, that kind of life can sound pretty appealing. Next up is Beckley, West Virginia, a place that might be perfect if you've ever dreamed about living in the mountains without draining your bank account. Beckley sits right in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, surrounded by rolling green hills, forests, and scenic trails that seem to stretch forever. It's the kind of place where mornings begin with fog drifting slowly across the mountains, and evenings end with quiet sunsets over tree-covered ridges. The scenery alone feels like something you'd normally see on a travel poster. But the real surprise is how affordable it is to live here. The median home price in Beckley is around $140,000, which is far below what most Americans pay for housing today. Rent is also extremely manageable. Many decent apartments fall between $750 and $850 per month. When you combine that with cheaper groceries, lower utility bills, and healthcare costs that are below the national average, it starts to feel like this town somehow escaped the rising costs affecting the rest of the country. Some people even joke that Beckley forgot to update its prices after 2010, but life here definitely moves at a slower pace. This is not a bustling city full of nightlife and crowded streets. Instead, it's a quiet mountain town where nature is often the main form of entertainment. Of course, that peaceful lifestyle comes with a few compromises. Job opportunities can be limited unless you work remotely or in fields like healthcare. Internet speeds might also feel slower compared to what people are used to in major cities. Winters can be cold and gray, and scraping ice off your windshield early in the morning can become part of your daily routine during the colder months. Yet for many residents, the calm environment more than makes up for those inconveniences. Imagine sitting on a wooden porch swing, looking out toward distant mountains while birds chirp in the background and the air smells fresh after a cool morning rain. In a world where big cities are becoming louder, more crowded, and more expensive every year, towns like Beckley offer something many people are starting to value again: quiet, space, and affordability. One resident once described the town perfectly by saying that if you want peace, this place gives it to you for half the price. And honestly, that simple sentence explains exactly why so many people are beginning to consider places like Beckley when they think about where they want to live. Now let's head down south to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. If you imagine classic Southern living with front porches, sweet tea, and friendly neighbors, Hattiesburg fits that image almost perfectly. Life here moves at a slower and more relaxed pace, and many people say that's exactly what makes it special. The median home price in Hattiesburg is around $210,000, which is still considered very affordable compared to most American cities today. Rent typically ranges between $900 and $1,200 per month, and everyday costs like groceries, gas, and utilities are noticeably cheaper than what people pay in large coastal cities. For someone moving from places like California or New York, the difference in living expenses can feel almost unbelievable. The town itself has a welcoming atmosphere. Neighborhoods are filled with large shady trees, quiet streets, and homes that still have that traditional Southern charm. Local barbecue restaurants are everywhere, and some of them might look simple from the outside, but serve food that locals swear is unforgettable. People tend to be friendly and warm, often greeting strangers with a smile or calling them hon, even if they've just met. But like every place on this list, Hattiesburg also comes with its own challenges. Summers can be extremely hot and humid, and the mosquitoes can be relentless. Nightlife is also fairly quiet, so if you enjoy busy clubs and late-night entertainment, you might find the evenings here a bit slow. Still, many residents say that peaceful lifestyle is exactly why they love living there. Another town that surprises many people with its affordability is McAllen, Texas. Located in the southern part of the state, McAllen offers one of the lowest costs of living in the country. The median home price is about $225,000, but many homes sell closer to $180,000, making homeownership possible for many families. Rent usually falls between $900 and $1,000 per month. On top of that, Texas has no state income tax, which means residents keep more of the money they earn. Groceries and everyday expenses are also extremely cheap compared to other parts of the United States. The food scene is especially popular here, with delicious and affordable Tex-Mex restaurants on nearly every corner. Tacos, burritos, and street food are not only tasty but also incredibly budget-friendly. Winters in McAllen are mild and sunny, which makes it a popular destination for retirees and people escaping colder northern states. However, the summers can be very hot, and stepping into your car during July can sometimes feel like opening an oven. The nightlife scene isn't very flashy either, as the city tends to focus more on family gatherings, weekend barbecues, and relaxed evenings rather than big parties or rooftop lounges. But for many residents, that simple lifestyle is exactly what they prefer. Across the United States, towns like these prove that affordable living still exists. From quiet mountain communities to charming southern towns and warm coastal cities, there are still places where you can buy a home, pay manageable rent, and live without constant financial stress. In a time when housing prices seem to be rising everywhere, these towns remind us that sometimes the best places to live are the ones that don't get as much attention. So now I'm curious, which one of these towns would you consider moving to? Would you trade big city excitement for peaceful living and lower bills? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to discover more amazing places around the world, make sure to subscribe to Wonder Route and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey.